From the very first scenes of Percy Jackson and The Olympians Season 2, there's a subtle tension that longtime readers immediately recognize, but new viewers might miss. Annabeth Chase, usually the most rational and open-minded member of the trio, is clearly wary, almost cold, toward Tyson, Percy's newly revealed Cyclops half-brother, and if you've only watched the Disney Plus series without reading The Sea of Monsters or revisiting the lore in Rick Riordan's novels, that reaction seems strangely un-Annabeth-like, even unfair, especially when Percy instantly grows. But this moment isn't just a random character quirk or temporary distrust meant for drama. It's one of the most thematically rich storylines of the entire Riordanverse. And understanding it requires pulling together threads from the books, mythology, past adaptations, character backstory, and the emotional trauma that defines Annabeth's childhood. What the show hints at, but hasn't revealed yet, is that Annabeth's hesitation around Tyson has nothing to do with who Tyson is and everything to do with what he represents in her memory. To understand why her shoulders tense when Tyson speaks, why her face hardens when Percy welcomes him, and why she immediately distances herself emotionally, you have to go all the way back to The Sea of Monsters, Book 2, to Annabeth's earliest days as a runaway demigod, and to a chapter in her life that Rick Riordan intentionally hid from readers until the moment Tyson is introduced, because the reveal is meant to reframe not only Annabeth as a character, but also the way the story juxtaposes prejudice, trauma, and the subversion of monster stereotypes. In the books, Annabeth's distrust of cyclops is one of the most personal elements of her backstory, and it's a moment the movies completely erased, which is why the film version of Annabeth feels emotionally flatter and far less layered than the book counterpart. In the Sea of Monsters novel, readers learn that Annabeth, Luke, and Thalia spent years on the run before arriving at Camp Half-Blood. Grover eventually found them and attempted to escort them safely to camp, but during this journey, just before reaching the magical borders, the group encountered a band of rogue cyclopes. These cyclopes used their mimicry ability, a classic trait from Greek mythology also used by Polyphemus in the Odyssey, to deceive them. They imitated voices of loved ones, pretended to be injured or helpless, and lured the trio into a deadly trap, delaying their arrival to camp long enough for the entire monster army to catch up. It's this delay that ultimately led to Thalia Grace making the final stand on Half-Blood Hill, sacrificing her life to buy the others time, and becoming the pine tree that protects camp. For Annabeth, who already idolized Thalia as an older sister figure, this moment was a lifetime scar. It was the moment she learned monsters were capable not only of brute strength, but emotional manipulation. It was the moment she lost the person she loved most, and in her mind, the creatures who trapped them, the cyclopes, became the symbol of that loss. Rick Riordan wrote this with clear psychological intention. Annabeth's fear isn't about cyclopes as a species, but about her unresolved trauma, a trauma she has never worked through because demigods rarely get space for emotional healing. When the Disney Plus show hints at Annabeth's past in Season 1, especially when she talks about life on the run with Luke and Thalia, viewers are witnessing the setup for this emotional payoff. It's handled subtly. The way the camera lingers on Annabeth's eyes when Tyson speaks, the slight flinch when she sees his single eye, the forced politeness masking internal discomfort. This isn't prejudice in the hateful sense. It's instinctive trauma response, something even Annabeth doesn't fully understand about herself yet. And that's actually consistent with Riordan's intention. In the book, Annabeth tries to rationalize her feelings, explains them only when Percy directly confronts her, and even then, she's not proud of her reaction. The narrative positions Annabeth's eventual acceptance of Tyson as a major emotional arc, one that contributes to her development as a strategist who must learn to see past fear and assumptions. When fans criticize Annabeth's early treatment of Tyson, they sometimes misunderstand the point. Rick Riordan didn't write her as anti-monster, but as someone forced to confront the reality that not everything associated with trauma deserves blame. And Tyson is the perfect character to challenge her because he subverts every expectation she has about monsters. Tyson in the books is gentle, awkward, innocent, loyal to Percy to the point of devotion, and painfully unaware of the cruelty he's faced all his life, whether from humans who mocked him or monsters who saw him as lesser. Rick Riordan uses Tyson to dismantle the moral binary of monster equals evil that dominates most fantasy stories. Percy accepts this immediately because his fatal flaw is loyalty, and Tyson triggers Percy's protective instincts right away. But Annabeth, whose fatal flaw is hubris, struggles longer because she believes she already understands the world's rules. Monsters hurt demigods, cyclopes are dangerous, mimicry kills, Thalia died because of them, therefore Tyson must be a threat. That is the exact mindset Riordan wants her to grow out of by the end of The Sea of Monsters. And the Disney Plus adaptation amplifies this beautifully by letting the tension unfold slowly over multiple episodes rather than dropping the reveal all at once. When we compare this to the movie adaptation, the difference is stark. In the poorly received 2013 film Percy Jackson's Sea of Monsters, Tyson is handled more like comic relief. Annabeth's mistrust is barely addressed, her trauma backstory is erased, and the emotional resolution between them is rushed and shallow. The movie misses the narrative purpose of Tyson entirely, which is why Tyson feels like an accessory instead of a catalyst for Annabeth's character growth. Meanwhile, the books and the new show portray him as essential to exploring themes of prejudice, grief, forgiveness, and identity. Even Tyson's introduction scene differs drastically. In the book, Percy already cares about Tyson because they met in the human world before Percy learns the truth. In the show, Percy is shocked, but instantly affectionate. Annabeth, however, remains guarded. The key conflict the story needs. To understand the deeper symbolism of Annabeth's fear, you also have to consider the mythological roots of cyclopes. In Greek mythology, cyclopes are both creators and destroyers. The elder Cyclopes forged Zeus, lightning bolt, Poseidon's trident, and Hades, helm of invisibility, arguably the most powerful weapons of the gods. But other Cyclopes, like Polyphemus, terrorize heroes such as Odysseus. Rick Riordan intentionally merges these two mythological branches into a single species, allowing for good Cyclopes like Tyson and horrific ones like Polyphemus, who appears in The Sea of Monsters as a major antagonist and who uses mimicry to trap Grover, paralleling the trap that once captured Annabeth. The show will almost certainly highlight this connection visually. When Annabeth encounters Polyphemus later in the season, her fear of Tyson becomes even more meaningful because she is forced to face the embodiment of her trauma, standing next to the embodiment of her healing. Tyson represents the cyclops she needs to trust. Polyphemus represents the cyclops she remembers. Their juxtaposition is literary craftsmanship. As the story progresses, Annabeth's bond with Tyson transforms into one of the most wholesome relationships in the entire series. In later books like The Last Olympian and The Mark of Athena, Annabeth shows genuine affection for Tyson, and Tyson becomes fiercely protective of her. Their growth is so sincere that fans often cite their friendship as one of the most emotionally satisfying character arcs in the Riordanverse. Annabeth eventually respects Tyson's bravery, admires his mechanical talent, cyclopes are natural builders, and trusts him unconditionally. In fact, some of the most heartfelt scenes in the later books involve Annabeth embracing Tyson not as Percy's brother, but as her own family. By the time the Argo II saga arrives in Heroes of Olympus, the resentment is long gone and replaced with mutual loyalty. That later warmth only works because the early distrust existed. Rick Riordan understood that real friendships formed out of struggle leave a stronger emotional payoff. The Disney Plus series is replicating that exact emotional trajectory to preserve the integrity of the book's character development. Annabeth's emotional arc with Tyson also reflects a broader theme in Percy Jackson. That heroes are not defined by birth, but by choice. Tyson is technically a monster, but he chooses love, loyalty, and kindness. Annabeth is a demigod, but she must choose to confront her trauma and grow past her assumptions. Percy must choose to bridge the space between his two worlds, demigod and cyclops, by loving his brother openly despite the stigma. These themes were almost entirely absent in the films, which is why the movies feel shallow compared to the books and the show. Disney Plus is restoring that complexity by allowing Annabeth's discomfort to linger, letting viewers question her behavior, and then eventually showing her evolution, doubling the emotional payoff when she finally sees Tyson for who he really is. Ultimately, Annabeth's initial fear of Tyson and Percy Jackson in The Olympians Season 2 isn't just a moment of tension. It's the beginning of one of the most meaningful emotional arcs in the entire series. It's about trauma, healing, and confronting the past. It's about breaking stereotypes and challenging assumptions. And it's about the truth that some of the strongest friendships begin at the point where fear meets unexpected kindness. By exploring Annabeth's mistrust slowly and carefully, the show is honoring the depth of Rick Riordan's storytelling, correcting the mistakes of the movie adaptations, and setting up a future payoff that longtime fans already know will be one of the most heartwarming moments of the entire season. If you want to be right here, the second those new episodes drop, breaking down every frame, every theory, every heartbreaking choice, don't just scroll away. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and make this your safe place for Percy Jackson and the Olympian season. Drop your wildest theory in the comments.